Most of the creative crafts of rural Ireland came into existence because there was a raw material available locally to provide the basis of that craft. The common bulrush, Scirpus lacustris, grows profusely in freshwater lakes, rivers and ponds in all parts of Ireland. For many centuries, people have twisted this fibrous material into ropes or have woven it into St. Bridget's crosses, baskets, ceiling linings, mats or even mattresses. This rush mattress from Scramogue, County Roscommon, is over 100 years old and is a vivid reminder of how rushes met a local demand. Rural communities in Ireland remained self-sufficient until comparatively recent times. The craftsman who catered for the day-to-day needs of any neighbourhood was essential in rural society. Of all the forgotten craftsmen of rural Ireland, the blacksmiths are the most fortunate. They have survived, though in severely diminished numbers. Their craft remains basically the same as it has been for almost 2,000 years. This is a good example of the adaptability of the blacksmith and his readiness to make implements to meet local demands. For the cutting of rushes in County Roscommon, Jimmy Kerrigan and his brother make sickles to a pattern which would be familiar in shape and form to Neolithic man. The traditional strength and sense of timing of the blacksmith can be readily understood from his use of the sledgehammer. It is small wonder that this craftsman was held in high esteem, if not even awe, in times gone by. In an earlier age, he was believed to have had the power to cure animals and humans. His power was both physical and supernatural, and his place in society was guaranteed. In the past, when animals were roasted, certain portions were reserved for specific people according to rank. The tradition of giving the head of a slaughtered beast to the blacksmith is an ancient survival. The proudest boast of the blacksmith was, of course, that he made the tools for all the other craftsmen. He manufactured spades for digging, billhooks for cutting, and a variety of other hand implements like thistle tongs, which are long since forgotten. For domestic use, he made stands and fenders for oat cakes, candlesticks and rushlight holders. The beauty and design of some of his smaller items are among the finest examples of rural crafts in Ireland. Strokestown, County Roscommon, is the home of the Sleeve Bon Cooperative, which was established in 1962, and since then it has successfully encouraged its members to manufacture rushwork articles to supply its handcraft markets. Each July, when the rushes are in bloom, people from Strokestown and the surrounding district gather to harvest the rush. The art of making objects from rushes was almost extinct by the 1930s. Only St. Bridget's crosses continued to be made in large numbers. The modern revival of rushwork in Ireland was pioneered by Mrs. Olivia Hughes of Feathered, County Tipperary. Having seen rushwork from Bushmills, County Antrim, she recognised its potential as a commercial craft. She managed to interest the Irish Countrywomen's Association, and courses were provided in Ungrianan, the ICA's training centre at Termonfeckin, County Louth. The harvesters travel the 17 miles to Saints Island and Lough Ree, where there are extensive rush beds.
God, it's going to be cold in that water. It's going to be terribly cold. Bet your life this.
Double wrapped for double protection.
Yes, the water is better than the water is cold.
I don't know either. I don't You're going to get lost or what?
The rushes are cut with Jimmy Kerrigan's sickles.
I think they're a fly, actually. Or a little beetle or something. But by God, they can sting.
They have to be severed as close to the butt as possible, for the section of rush which is permanently underwater is considered to be the most flexible for weaving. The harvesting takes place in July, when the rush is fully grown, and goes on for about 2 weeks until sufficient quantities have been saved.
No.
Unlike seaweed, there are no traditional rites involved in the cutting of rush.
It's there, we'll hit on it.
It takes 3 years for a bed to come back to full strength after cutting. The rushes are highly buoyant, and the bundles are reminiscent of the rafts or boats which were used until the 1930s by the people of Derry Cahill and Fiva in County Roscommon. The local name for this boat was Clee Hullaga, or flood raft. These rafts were widely used on the River Suck and in the surrounding areas when there was flooding. Boats of this kind bear a remarkable similarity to Thor Heyerdahl's papyrus boats Ra 1 and 2, in which he attempted an Atlantic crossing.
What you use for splitting, James? You have nothing. Oh, Mary, come out here and help me pull these in.
Them up there, because they won't get in there.
Here comes the rest of the helpers. The rushes are perfect for saving. Those are the flower heads.
Some of them here now that you can just get the heads of them and pull out the skin small.
The rushes are made up into bundles, not unlike great sheaves of corn. Some weavers claim that rushes cut in limestone areas are tough and difficult to weave, while those from areas of acid bog are softer and easier to work. Boyne rushes are highly valued and are reputed to be the best of all, but this quality is difficult to assess. Rushes in parts of the Shannon, as in this area of Lough Ree, can be more influenced by the acid bog than by the limestone nature of the general area. The final judgment is up to the weaver. It was often said that food tasted better on a bog after a cutting session than anywhere else on earth. Nothing could be nicer for the dripping rush cutter than a steaming cup of tea. In the past, rushes were used for making a wide variety of objects. As mats on floors, they brought comfort to primitive houses. Primitive doors were woven in much the same way as the 100-year-old mattress we have already seen. In one respect, modern weaving contrasts with some of the older Irish rushwork. Just as flax was scotched in the past, rushes were sometimes pounded to break the fibres prior to twisting and plaiting. This enabled the rush worker to produce ropes strong enough to bear enormous loads. In medieval wills, rush burden ropes were valuable enough to be specifically mentioned. Strokestown, like most country towns in Ireland, has at the rear of its houses extensive sheds with large lofts. Up to the 1950s, country people usually travelled to towns in traps or carts, and most grocery shops and public houses had room in their yards to stable the horse or donkey while their customers promenaded the town. These days have long since passed, but in Strokestown the lofts are still used for saving rushes. Saving rushes basically involves allowing them to dry out under controlled conditions. In lofts, where there is plenty of air and little light, rushes dry and ripen evenly and remain supple. The top ties are pushed up and the bottom ones removed, and the butts of the sheaves loosened. When saved out of doors, rushes become too dry and brittle for weaving if the weather is very warm and sunny. The rushes are turned regularly and a blue mould develops on them. This mould gradually turns black, and at the end of 6 to 8 weeks, the rushes are ready for weaving. As the rushes are cured, the colour sometimes changes from dark green to brown. Some remain green, however, and the variation in colour is one of the most attractive features of these rushes. Mrs. Frances Brennan of Curraroe is one of the most highly skilled rush workers in the country. The Brennan family collect their own rushes. With her daughter Lucy, she selects bundles of rushes prior to weaving. Uniform rushes are selected for different purposes and for making different sizes of articles. They are withdrawn butt end first. The preparation of the rushes is laborious. The black mould which forms while curing is removed by washing in warm soapy water, and the rushes are wiped with a clean cloth. They are never steeped. They are then rinsed and allowed to drain. Next, they are rolled in a damp towel until ready for use. Plastic is wrapped round the towel, and this keeps the rushes damp and supple and consequently easier to weave. To weave this basket, Mrs. Brennan uses a small mould. The rubber band will hold the first set of rushes in place. Before inserting the rushes, each one is flattened uniformly. The warp rushes complete, she fits them to the mould. As each weft rush is inserted, it is pressed down firmly and great care is taken to get uniform tension in the weave. As in woolen weaving, different patterns can be produced. The base of this basket is a plain check or tabby weave. Twill weave, where the pattern of over 2 and under 2 is used, is also popular with rush weavers. Near the edge of the base, Mrs. Brennan is pairing or working 2 thin rushes alternately over and under each other. This row of finer rushes binds together the looser weave of the base of the basket before a twisted edge of large rushes is added. This twisted edge forms a type of small plinth on which the basket will sit, and it is with this edge that the rushes are twisted up the sides of the basket. This basket has an openwork panel, and Mrs. Brennan is just defining its edge with a row of coupling. The openwork panel is similar to that seen on so many willow baskets. There, its function is to reduce the weight of the basket, but here it is purely decorative. Above the openwork, there is a band of high plait, which, because it is not secure in itself, must be followed by a band which will form a firm rim. The rim is made with a 3-rod edge of large rushes. The basket is finished with an old packing needle, which is used to fasten the last rushes by drawing them back through the thick rim. Mrs. Brennan finally trims the waste ends off the projecting rushes. No sophisticated tools are needed for this work. As with so many crafts, the skill of the hands makes the task seem deceptively simple. In a short period, the ladies of the Slieve Bon Cooperative have developed a talent of which they can feel justifiably proud. The variety of their products is impressive, and their market success shows that there is still scope in this technological age for goods that can only be produced with skill, care and patience. Slieve Bon exports to America, Europe and Australia. Only highly skilled weavers are accepted as suppliers, and every supplier is a shareholder holding at least 2 £1 shares. The process, which began at Saints Island, ends for the weavers with delivery to the handcraft shop. The products show how the adaptable nature of the rushes places few restrictions on the creative talents of the imaginative rush worker. The future of this traditional craft seems assured. It is a delight to see it being preserved, not as an archaic curiosity, but as a viable commercial enterprise in its own right.